same one.
Yeah.
It's, all he's asking for is obedience to him and his word.
Everything really, in a sense, almost in 61, really could be applied to Adam in the garden, in a sense, because all the plants gave freely of all their nourishment. Everything really was provided in a sense, and he was the priest overseeing the garden.
That's something Michaela and I were talking about last night. We were going through Isaiah 11, and Jim was mentioning earlier, talking about the wolf playing with the lion, or with the lamb, and talks about the lion eating straw like a cow. And Elijah, what you're saying there, that's really what, when Yeshua comes and reigns, he's going to be put back in that place that was in the garden. So he's going to take dominion over all the animals, and so they're going to do exactly what he said, because that's, you know, when I read that verse in the past, it's like, oh, just because, well, Christ is going to reign, so everything will be hunky-dory, right? And that's true, but the realness of it is he's doing what he's supposed to be. He's taking dominion, and so everything is perfectly in order.
So let's talk about dominion. God's here. God's the head. We're a body. Right? God's the head. Yeshua is the heart. He's the life-giving force, just like our heart is, right?
He's the blood.
He's the blood. We are just members. Bell might be a finger. DJ might be a foot. Right? In my own body. If my hand starts doing that, it's not behaving, is it?
Turn it off.
Right, right.
But my hand says, I have a right to live that way. No.
The head can control the other hand. Still.
But this hand's behaving. But this
Right.
hand's not.
And it may
Now
cut
wait
it
a
off.
minute. Now this foot's going this way.
You're double-minded.
So God gives us a perfect picture in our bodies of how we are behaving. He's our head. Yeshua is our heart. And our body, if it functions properly,
Right.
it moves wonderfully. Doesn't it?
It can do all things.
But if we have subjective members,
So are you slapping God right now?
Yes, yes.
because here's the greatest sin of man. I'll tell it to you right now. Deuteronomy 4. Hear, O Israel, the decrees and laws I'm about to teach you. Follow them so that you may live and go and take possession of the land that the Lord your God, your fathers, is giving you. Do not add to what I command. Do not subtract from it. But keep the commands of the Lord your God that I give you. God is up here. What he says, I'm not to add to it or take away from it. If I read the Word, and I see it and I say, you know, the sin of Adam, or sin of Eve, is that what he really said? If I start to doubt what God has said, and then I say, well, you know, I want to do this, but I don't want to do that. What have I just done? I have added and taken away. Now, what's so bad about adding and taking away?
That's his subject.
Right, but what really is going on there?
You're putting yourself.
Exactly. Let's say here I am, here's God, right? If I follow His commands, I'm going to stay down here and I'm going to be subject to Him. But if I say, well, you know, God, I like this one, but I don't like that one.
You think you're smarter than God?
I have just become my own idol. I am guilty of idol worship. I am more important than God. Can I be more important than God? Woe to you.
What was the adversary trying to do?
Make himself more important than God. Raise him up. The same sin that caused Hasatan himself to fall without us knowing it. Anytime I look through His Word and I say, you know, I like that one, but I don't like that one. I like that one, but I don't like that one. woe to you, you have just committed idolatry without knowing it. And when I realized that, down I went. Now, is the Hebrew roots guilty of that? Yes, they are.
Sure.
Just as bad as the church is, so don't anybody start pointing fingers. If you're going to point fingers at your heart. That's the only place you can point fingers in this place. Okay? Because there are a lot of divisions, and the enemy only wants us to divide. Why? Because there's no strength in division. If I get my body and I start tearing it all apart, can I stand? A house divided will? Okay, there's things in Scripture that I do not understand, right? They're not clear. When's the new moon start?
Mm-hmm.
First of the month?
Yeah, right.
How
Does
many-
it start at
how many
conjunction
will
or
sit
when
there
you
and
first
go,
see it?
well, it says this. Well, I believe this. I have studied it out for 14 days, and I don't like what you're saying. You're wrong.
It's all the time.
You're wrong. Does this. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So then we let it go. It's not worth arguing over. What is worth arguing over is this. You know, Jay needs help with his crops today. I'm going to go help Jay. He's a good guy. You know, today is Shabbat. I'm going to rest today. I'm not going to go down to Sonic and buy that coat, because if I go down to Sonic and buy that coat, that means that girl at Sonic has to work there so that she can sell me that coat.
Of course, they make the excuse where they're working anyway.
Well, if we all adhere to God's law, they wouldn't be working. So, there we
Some
go.
people think they're doing a blessing by giving them a big tip on that day.
You're right. So, let's go on. So, y'all see my points now? And all I'm saying is, let's be careful. Do not add, do not take away. If it's not sure, then let's just leave it over there as not sure. Does that sound like a good deal? And stop going, well, I know more than you do. And no, you know, I've been studying for 14 years. You've only been studying for how long?
You're gonna teach me?
Yeah.
You know, Jim, the Jewish rabbis, they have the Talmud. They think you cannot keep this book of laws without having the Talmud, because this doesn't give you any
The Talmud
details
was
on
nailed
how
to
to
the
do
cross.
it. Like when it tells you to wear tefillin, it doesn't tell you what it's made out of or what to put in it. So they feel like they have to have the Talmud in order to do that.
Okay,
And they tell you-
Leah.
Yeah.
The Talmud was nailed to the cross. So we're not going to go there.
I'm just saying,
It
that's
was
where
nailed to the
Christians
cross.
are now. We think we have the New Testament
know.
to tell us.
No, I understand. And that just leads to division. So what we're going to say is, man's thought, gray area, all those laws that we added to Torah, don't go there. Don't. Don't argue. Because when you start to argue, is you're going, you know, God, I know a lot more than I think. And I'm becoming out of it. So all I'm saying is, if it's black and white, it's black and white. If it's gray, it's shady. We don't know. If he didn't put it in there clearly, Lord, I look forward to the day when you're on Mount Zion and when you make it clear on my heart. Thank you, Father. In the meantime, Jay, you need help. DJ, I want to help you today. Okay? Amen? Okay, let's go on. So now then, when we look at the Israelite people, they're new out of this land. Why did they have such a problem in keeping the law? Was Jethro's advice of setting up all these people to judge over his people, was that good advice? I say no.
That's why when you say that, is it God's
Right.
government?
But let's say, in the future, where is he going to write his law? In our hearts. So we'll know it. I wonder if he was going to write the law in their hearts here, but because they were too afraid And they said, no, Moses, you go before us, you do it, and then you tell us what to do? I wonder if that kept God from.
He obviously wrote it on Moses' heart.
What I'm saying is this, in a servant society, who is the most important person in a servant society?
Those you serve?
There's not one that's more important than the other person, is there?
The king.
There's not one man in here that's more important than I am, and there's not one woman in here more important than I am, and I'm not important more than any of you, right? Who's more important than me? Yeshua and the Father. So if I become a judge, if I'm appointed a judge, unless I'm perfect, that is setting me up to fail, isn't it? Because when I become a judge of other people, I have a tendency to, I think I'm a little bit more higher than that person. Right? That's the only reason I have a problem with, and I'm not saying it was wrong, but I'm having a problem with, if you set people above people, God doesn't want people set above people, does he? He wants him as our authority.
And then we're gonna look to you and say, well, Jen said, God said, if Jen said that, it was okay. Jen said.
Right, and he doesn't, I don't think he wants that, does he?
What
He
about
wants
giving
us.
his words to the apostles, that they will sit on 12 thrones and judge the 12 tribes?
They do, but that's in his kingdom, where he's in charge. But we're not in his kingdom, and in an imperfect kingdom, it sure is enticing. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I have a hard time. Because yeah, in the future kingdom, will there be some of us who will probably, it says rule and reign in him? He says yes. But he's in charge, so he can really quick, he's gonna rule with what kind of rod? An iron rod. So if somebody gets out of line real quick, what's he gonna do? Pop them. But right now, is he ruling with an iron rod? So it's kind of scary. That's why I'm saying we should be in him up here.
And that's also why we're told that those who teach will be held to a higher standard.
And I don't like standing up here teaching.
You've been warned.
But also, when Moses was advised to pick out these men of renown, men
To choose those of character.
that feared Elohim, were trustworthy, and shunned ill-gotten gain. So they were men who people trusted, and they feared Yahweh.
And we hope they were.
Still didn't come from God.
Yeah, it never came from God. It's still all
Yeah.
Jethro.
Yes.
Until Deuteronomy 16.
Right, because then he says, when
But
he
they'd
says,
already done it by then.
don't fear the people because your judgment is from God.
But that was after the fact.
It was a shadow of
That-
things to come.
It was after the fact that they had been at the mountain for the big ceremony, and God was going to give it to them. And they said, no, Moses, you go talk to him and you tell us.
I liken it to the same thing where instead of putting them the shortcut to the promised land, they had to go back because God knew that they would.
But it was true, God said it is true, if he'd have told them then, they would have died, because they weren't holy enough. What's the assurance that we have in the future kingdom? Why do we not fear that time when God's going to write the laws and things on our heart? Yes, sir.
So could you say then that the difference between this and what took place in like Luke 10, where the 70 Talmudim were sent out, is that they were chosen by God and these 70 leaders that Moses chooses were not chosen by God?
I don't know. That's a little deeper than where we go. That's
I
pretty
think
good.
that it corresponds with Numbers 11. And in Numbers 11, he said to bring those men here and I will put my spirit upon you.
Right.
And so I have to believe that's the same thing.
Now, he's going to set us up. Now, he said 70. Why 70?
It's the number of councils. Yeah.
You see 70 nations. So there are his kingdom of kingly priests, and then there's the nations, right? Now, the 70 are over the nations. I don't know. So we're going to, but in this coming deal, we have one greater than Moses, don't we?
Right.
Yeshua. And Yeshua will keep us. So he can write his laws on our hearts. Because Yeshua has paid that price for us. Moses was a man. Yeshua's not a man. Well, he is a man, but he's also God.
Right, and that's why, okay, so they don't want to go up to the mountain. They say, Moses, you go get it for us. Then later on, he says, okay, I heard what the people said. That was a good idea, God says. What you said was good. What the people said is good. Now, even though it seems like they kind of fall short, but in Deuteronomy 18, he says, what the people said was good. Now, there's going to be a guy who comes, and he's going to come down, and he's going to speak everything, and he's going to give it to the people the way that they couldn't go up and do.
Right.
Because they were afraid. So he's going to come down, he's going to teach them. That was always, Yeshua's ministry was to teach what he didn't hear when we didn't go up.
And how to properly follow that Torah.
Right.
Yeah. Cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are we doing okay? Am I losing everybody? Are we okay? Am I stepping on anybody's toes? Now I lost my train of thought. Okay, so in Deuteronomy, if y'all want to know, Deuteronomy 36, he tells us, he prophesies that he's going to write the Torah where? He's going to circumcise our hearts. And we also see this, if y'all want to write these down and read these later. Deuteronomy 36.
Are you in Exodus?
Exodus? No, Deuteronomy.
There's no Deuteronomy 36.
Let me check your Bible.
30, verse 6. You can do verse 30, verse 6. Okay, how about Ezekiel chapter 11, 19 and 20? Does anybody, y'all want to read these? Can you read them?
What was it?
Deuteronomy 30, verse 6. Deanna, will you read that one? It looks like you have it.
Sure. It says, Yahweh your God will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants, so that you may love him with all your heart, with all your soul, and live.
Ezekiel 11, 19, and 20. Does anybody have that one?
I do. I will give them an undivided heart and put a new spirit in them. I will remove from them their heart of stone and give them a heart of flesh. Then they will follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. They will be my people, and I will be their God.
Jeremiah 31, chapter 31, verse 33. Does anybody have that one? Jeremiah 31, verse 33.
After those days, says Yahweh, I will put my law into their minds and write it in their hearts, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people.
Isaiah 59, 21. Who has that one? Isaiah 59, 21.
And as for me, this is my covenant with them, says Yahweh. My spirit which is upon you, and my words that I have placed in your mouth, will not be withdrawn from your mouth, nor from the mouth of your offspring, nor from the mouth of your offspring's offspring, says Yahweh, from this moment and forever.
Sounds the same to me. How about y'all? But that's Old Testament stuff. Hebrews 8. Verse 7. Or verse 8.
That's 31:30.
The time is coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It will not be a covenant like I made with their forefathers when I took them by hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they did not remain faithful to my covenant, and I turned away from them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my laws in their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will a man teach his neighbor or a man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will forgive the wickedness and will remember the sins no more. So does that go with what we've read in all those Old Testament verses?
quote.
Yeah, didn't it? And it's also repeated again in Hebrews 10.
No.
Verse 16, this is the covenant I will make with them. After that time, says the Lord, I will put my laws in their hearts and I will write them on their hearts. Then he adds, their sins and their lawless acts I will remember no more. And where these have been forgiven, there is no longer any sacrifice for sins. So the same thing happens again in the New Testament. Okay, so back to our Torah portion. So when I skip down, in 19, so Moses went back and summoned the elders of the people and said before them all these words the Lord had commanded them to speak. The people responded together, we shall do everything the Lord has said. So Moses brought them back to the Lord. And if we look at Isaiah 62, 4 and 5, if you want to write that down, that's the same thing we're going to see again in the future. 4 and 5. And then Revelations 19, 7 through 9. 62, 4 and 5. 7 and 9. So let's continue reading. The Lord said to Moses, I am going to come in a dense cloud, so that all the people will hear me speaking with you and will always put their trust in you. Then Moses told them that the people had said, and Moses said, go to the people and consecrate them today, and tomorrow have them wash their clothes and be ready on the third day, because on the day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai inside of all the people, put limits for the people around the mountain, and tell them to be careful that you do not go up to the mountain or touch it, the foot of it. Wherever it touches the mountain shall be surely put to death. Why is that so critical? Why couldn't they touch the mountain?
It was holy.
They weren't consecrated. What's God trying to warn us here about? Can I come to the God in any way I choose to worship Him?
No.
So is that what He's trying to warn you here?
No, we were talking about this as, he has instructions, we're receiving instructions.
So His instructions are important. So if I have a blow dryer and I'm sitting in the bathtub, should I plug it in? I can if there's no water in the bathtub.
And your hair is wet.
But if there's water in the bathtub, I don't want to plug it into it and hold it at the same time. So that's why He's giving us this deal. After Moses had gone down the mountain with the people, He consecrated them, they washed their clothes. Then He said to the people, prepare yourselves for the third day, abstain from sexual relations. Somebody read Revelations 14:4 for me. Please. 14:4.
These are they who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. These are they who follow the Lamb wherever He went. These have been redeemed by Yeshua from among men, the first fruits to Elohim and the Lamb.
Y'all see a resemblance there? So are these people consecrated? And He says that day don't have what kind of relations? And I don't know why all this is. That's a gray area for me. But He says don't do it, doesn't He? And then here in the Revelations, we see the same thing basically He said here. But these are virgins, I guess they are. Okay, I was just curious, does that make y'all think? Okay. On the morning of the third day, there will be thunder and lightning and a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Matthew 24:31, please.
He will send out His angels with a great shofar, and they will gather together His chosen people from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
For future reading, read, not today, it's too much. Hebrews 12, 1 through 29 deals with this again.
Isaiah 27:13.
Go ahead.
That's going to be. So it shall be in that day that the great trumpet will be blown, and they will come who are about to perish in the land of Assyria, and they who are outcast in the land of Egypt, and they shall worship Yahweh at the holy mountain in Jerusalem.
Huh. So, what I said earlier, are y'all starting to see what they saw here today, you think we're going to see again? So we're going to see this. Come soon. 2 or 3 hundred. So let's go into 20. Let's talk about the 10 commandments, the 10 suggestions.
9 suggestions.
Oh, yeah.
Not the same.
I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt and out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. What's he saying? Is he going to, when he comes and, remember when the Jethro said to Moses, he knows he's God. Look what he's done to all these other gods. In the future, the battle of Gog and Magog, was that called Armageddon? When he destroys all nations, what's all the nations going to say? They're all going to bow down and every knee confess that who's Lord?
Yeshua.
Now, who wants to proclaim him, he as Lord now? Or do you want to proclaim him as Lord after the battle?
Now.
I want to be on his team.
I want to be on his team, yes. So you should not make for yourself an idol in any form, in any heaven or above, or on the earth below, and the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord, your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for sin of the fathers of third and fourth generation of those who hate me. That's amazing. So if I have an idol, all that doesn't mean anything. It says right here, if I do, what does it say?
You can
offspring.
spank
Your
your children
offspring.
too,
Yeah,
and your grandchildren,
yeah,
and your great-grandchildren.
yeah.
You're not a very nice person if you did that.
I'm not. I'm thinking about me, aren't I? This is deep stuff, isn't it? You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The God will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. For the longest time, I always thought that was to go out and, like in the oil field and say, every other word. Is that what that means?
No.
If you're wearing his name and you're behaving that way, you're just using his
I
name.
am. Or if I say, you know, the Sabbath's done away with. You know those laws, those mean laws, that mean God, they'll get down to the cross. We've got Yeshua now, we can worship him any way we please. We can come boldly to the throne of grace.
Those who claim to live in him must walk as he did.
Daniel 7. He will attempt to change times, seasons, and days. And we don't even realize he's done it. How do we not, why do we not realize that that's what's happened? Because we don't read his word. We follow those blindly who are leading us. The wolves in sheep's clothing, and who don't even know they're wolves in sheep's clothing. And they're everywhere. I'm not going to point fingers at anybody. Yes, sir.
You know, on the prior one where it talks about punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation, I've seen this specifically used by atheists to talk about how cruel they think God is, and how we shouldn't believe in him because they're teaching that he's that cruel to the third and fourth generation. But really, what we're talking about here is how the children are being taught by the parent,
Yes.
and they're being taught these idols are to be worshipped. And that's how they're being punished, because they're learning it, and that's why the children are supposed to be taught Torah by their parents, so that they don't fall into that trap. And I think that's what we're talking about also. You know, when you talk about the 1,000th generation,